Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock, Drogheda. Over the past few days, we've been talking a lot about US presidents and about their personal faith and how that was worked out in their lives, both before office, during their time in office, and even after their time in office. And of course, for every person that manages to become president, there are many who don't make it. They are candidates. They run and they try, and some even rise as far as the number 2 position of being vice president, but never actually get the top job. One such man was Hubert Humphrey. Hubert Humphrey was vice president to Lyndon Johnson. If you remember, Lyndon Johnson himself became president upon the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and then ran for re-election with Hubert Humphrey as his running mate, and Humphrey became his vice president. And then, because Lyndon Johnson was now term limited, could not run anymore, Humphrey became his party's standard bearer in the election of 1968, and he lost to Richard Nixon. Well, Hubert Humphrey went back to the Senate. He continued to work as a senator, but he died in 1978. Now, as he was dying in the winter of 1977, he rang Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon, who had been his greatest opponent, who had defeated him in that presidential race. Richard Nixon, who more than anybody else had stood in the way and prevented Hubert Humphrey achieving his dream of becoming President of the United States of America. And now here was Humphrey dying, and Richard Nixon was now himself in disgrace because of the Watergate scandal and the impeachment and his resignation. He was, for the last 3 years, Nixon had been living in California. He had been in disgrace. He had not been back to Washington. His name was mud, to be honest. And Hubert Humphrey, as he was dying of cancer on Christmas Eve, rang Richard Nixon and said, "I'm going to die soon." He said, "and my funeral arrangements are made." He said, I'm going to be lying in state in the Capitol building in Washington, and then they're going to bury me. But he said to Richard Nixon, he said, "I want to give you a Christmas gift. I want to invite you as a special guest of honor to my funeral." He said, "I know we were rivals. I know you beat me for the presidency." He says, "but whenever they have my funeral in the Capitol," he said, the living ex-presidents will all be there at that funeral service. He said, "and I would dearly love it if you would come as well. So please come as my special guest." Well, that's exactly how it happened. He died, and in January his funeral took place, and they had him lying in state in the Capitol building, and Richard Nixon came. And Richard Nixon was there, but he was ostracized. He was a figure still of disgrace. Nobody wanted to talk to him. And then Jimmy Carter, who was now the president himself, Jimmy Carter arrived at that funeral. And the first thing he did was walk over to Richard Nixon, embrace him warmly, and say, "Welcome home, Mr. President. Please come and sit with us." I thought that was a beautiful example of Jimmy Carter's spirit, showing love, showing forgiveness, and showing a desire for restoration from somebody who had been his political enemy, from somebody who had been on the other side, him as a Democrat, showing respect and love and restoration for Richard Nixon, who was a Republican. But you see, the love of Jesus stretches across party political boundaries. And Jimmy Carter, and we started off this series of messages about these US presidents with Jimmy Carter, and we're finishing with Jimmy Carter, because he, together with Hubert Humphrey as a vice president, paved the way for their biggest political enemy, Richard Nixon, to gain some measure of restoration and self-respect in his final years of his life. And praise God, God says that even when we fail him, even when we fall, even when we disgrace ourselves, God always wants to restore us. God has a way back for us. God still loves us. And I praise God for Jimmy Carter showing forth that principle. Today, if you have the opportunity to show love to somebody who might have messed up, somebody who might be in disgrace, just to let them know that God still cares for them, would you do that today? And join us tomorrow for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.